Okay, this Porzingis thing, I'm a Celtics fan, so this Porzingis thing is hitting home. It's hitting home. Okay, so um, big players, post players, traditionally, those individuals tend to have bad wheels. And when I say bad wheels, basketball players know what I'm talking about. They tend to have lower body issues. Some of them grew too fast. Their body wasn't able to acclimate to that increase in height as quickly as possible. So they're strong, based not strong, but they're weak based on their own body size and weight, right? You'll find that these individuals have a tough time doing pull-ups, sit-ups, lunges, squats, they move awkwardly, whatever. Okay, cool, got it. Um, Porzingis. Oh, so a casual fan will say, this guy sat out the entire season. He didn't play back. Well, he sat out the entire season. Let me stop. Let me back up. This guy sat out back to back games. Yes. This guy had an abbreviated playing schedule. Yes. So he should, in theory, be ready for the playoffs. There should be no injuries. And you know what? I would say to them, you're probably right. He should be ready. He shouldn't be injured right now. Should not be. And I think the idea behind the restriction in physical activity, the restriction of back to backs, has some form of merit. Here's where I disagree a little bit about their approach. And this is the part that made me a little frustrated. You have to increase the load specific to the demand that he will be placed under. And what I mean by that is minimal rest. Minimal rest for your joints, for the tissue, for the bones. You don't get that when you're resting. You don't get basketball game specific demand on the body when you don't consistently have back to back games. He should have had a couple of those during the season, maybe during low quality opponents in which, you know, they had a chance of winning, or maybe that should have been irrelevant and they should have did it anyway, played him a couple minutes. But I think he should have played a couple of back-to-back games or a back-to-back here and there with a 1 day of rest and then another game. He should have had those because he would have prepared his tissue and his bones and connective tissue and all that stuff, muscle, for what's going on right now, for the playoffs. The intensity level is higher. You're operating closer to 100%, arguably 105%, because you're working as hard as you can per minute because you're trying to win these games. So it's very difficult to replicate that in a lab setting, in a practice setting. He should have played 2 games back to back a couple of times. He should have played 2 games back to back, 1 day of rest, and then another game. Then you would have been able to show that he was able to withstand it, or you would have at least given his tissue, bones, muscles, ligaments, tendons, the stimulus, the demand, so that he can be resilient when he faces that level of demand when the playoffs came. So he should have did it. He couldn't have did it in the beginning of the season. I get that, right? And he's excited. You don't want to hurt him. I get that part. But middle of the season, middle of the season would have been the perfect time to increase the load and let this guy play some back to backs, maybe take a couple more days off. No one would have batted an eye. No one would have batted an eye. Now, the dude's injured and he's out of multiple games. The approach, I have to say, the approach was wrong. The approach was wrong. And the fans, I can see them being mad about this because he sat out, didn't play back to backs. The goal, big picture, was to be in the playoffs and to not be injured. And that didn't happen. It didn't happen.